Once the black and blue division was home to the NFL's most colorful team, strong personalities who could entertain as well as win. Now the Chicago Bears are less well known, but the same style may help them return to success. Tonight, the Bears visit Philadelphia to take on Randall and the Eagles, a game we preview on NFL Prime Monday.
As usual, the fortunes of the Eagles rest on the arm and the legs of quarterback Randall Cunningham. After missing most of last season, Cunningham must play like the Randall of old for Philadelphia to win. Phil?
We'll take a look at two defensive squads with very little in common right now. The Vikings, who have given up just 19 points in 2 games, and the Patriots, who have surrendered a very Parcells-like 77. Jaws?
I'll open the Prime Monday playbook, and we'll take a look at Eagles quarterback Randall Cunningham and what he has to do to be successful against a very disciplined, yet conservative Bears defense.
Yesterday, Joe Montana proved he's still capable of a vintage performance. Can anyone do it better? Tonight, our Knights of the Round Table debate if Joe Montana is still the best at age 38. Pam?
It is a new start for an old quarterback. And what did Eric Kramer have that, in the opinion of Dave Wannstedt's coaching staff, none of the other 15 available quarterbacks did? I'm Pam Oliver. I'll answer that in a live report from the vet.
The Bears and the Eagles. Hard to forget that 88 Spog Bowl in the playoffs, isn't it? That is, if you can see it. And we'll look back at one of the great running backs of all time, Philadelphia's Steve Van Buren.
Hi, downtown Judy Brown in the town of brotherly love with natural-born instigator, Eagles defensive end Burt Grossman.
You ain't seen nothing yet.
And we'll listen to a man who loves to toil in the trenches, Chicago's Chris Zorich.
Hell yeah! Hell yeah!
Yeah, we'll tackle all of that next on NFL Prime Monday. Week 2 of the season ends up at the Vet in Philadelphia, where two old NFC teams, the Bears and the Eagles, meet. We'll preview the game here on NFL Prime Monday. Hello, guys. A masterful show.
A masterful jacket.
See if we earn the green jacket at the end of 90 minutes. Phil Sims, Joe Theismann, 25 handicap. Mike Sirico, welcome. Week 2 finds the Bears looking to join the Giants and Dallas, the only 2-0 teams in the NFC. Now, the Eagles and Bears, they have playing against one another for the first time, or they have been, I should say, since 1933. Philly looking to snap a 7-game losing streak to the Bears tonight. Pam Oliver joins us from the Vet. Hi, Pam.
Hi, Mike. Well, of late, the Bears have owned Philadelphia. Chicago has beaten Philadelphia 7 straight times, including 3 here at the Vet. And what about Eric Kramer? Here's a guy who finally gets off that quarterback merry-go-round from Detroit and comes to a team that's desperately looking for anybody who can establish a passing game. They finished dead last in the league in passing the last couple of years under the dearly departed Jim Harbaugh. Kramer was a unanimous choice among Dave Wannstedt and his coaching staff. He does a lot of things that they like. They particularly like the kinds of judgments he makes in terms of passing the ball. As for the Eagles, they have literally lived and died with Randall Cunningham. And lately, they've been pretty much dying without him. The Eagles are 15-5 when Cunningham is healthy. They are 14-14 when he is not. So naturally, they want Randall Cunningham to stay as healthy as possible.
He put up some big numbers. He had some open receivers he didn't get to, but some of that wasn't his fault. But I saw him throw the ball upfield better than he had this whole summer. But I just think the more he plays, the more comfortable he's going to get, and hopefully he's going to be the threat he's always been.
You want him to go after it. You want him to be aggressive. If he sees an opening, take it.
Without a doubt. If he drops back and someone's covered and he sees something, I tell him, you just get going and go for those sticks.
Now, Cunningham has a pretty good wall of protection, a wall built with a lot of #1 picks, including this year's starter at left tackle, a guy by the name of Bernard Williams. Mike, I'll be back a little bit later on with a chat with one of the Eagles' newest and latest defensive stars. I'll see you then.
Pam, look forward to it. Phil, tough spot for the Bears tonight.
Yeah, it is a tough spot. The Eagles haven't lost in Veterans Stadium on Monday night since 1979. That's 7 straight victories. And the last time they lost at Veterans Stadium in 1979, the quarterback was Ron Jaworski.
Phil, my God, 1 week with Theismann, you're already taking shots at me. Hey, Joe, when do we get to talk about Phil and his favorite coach, Buddy Ryan?
Soon, George, soon. We'll get to him. Don't worry about it. You know, the thing about tonight's game, too, is the Bears, I keep wondering, they're the only team last year that did not have a wide receiver, any receiver, that had over 50 catches. Last week, Merrill Hodge, their fullback, had 4. When is a wide receiver going to step up for the Bears other than Tommy Waddle?
Maybe Curtis Conway. Still waiting for him. Second year. We'll see how he does tonight. Guys, news around the league. Starting off of yesterday's big game, the injuries just continue to mount for the San Francisco offensive line. Already without both starters on the right side, left guard Jesse Sapolu left after halftime. He has a pulled hamstring, will not play next week against the Rams. There are experienced offensive linemen like unsigned Bill Fralick out there, but with just $21,000 of cap room, San Francisco cannot bring in reinforcements without players taking salary cuts, like a Steve Young or a Tim McDonald. Compounding the problems, Richard Dent, torn medial collateral ligament in his knee, out at least 6 weeks. It happened late yesterday in the game with Kansas City. The Giants will be without Rodney Hampton 2 to 3 weeks. Clean play here, but Hampton's still in an Arizona hospital after suffering a bruised kidney last night in the third quarter. Detroit will be without starting wide receiver Anthony Carter for 2 months. AC broke his collarbone here in yesterday's game against his old Minnesota team. Rookie Johnny Morton might be the starter there. Tough day for Emmitt Smith. He lost 13 pounds, suffering like several other starters on Dallas with a virus. Looked like an elbow injury there, but Emmitt landed on his funny bone and turns out to be okay. But not all the Cowboys were happy with yesterday's 20-17 win over Houston. Our roundtable member, Skip Bayless, was in the Cowboy locker room after the game. What was the reaction in there, Skip?
Mike, let me preface this by saying all through training camp, Barry Switzer encouraged Troy Aikman to make this Troy's team. He said, you know, this ought to be from Jimmy Johnson's team to Troy Aikman's team. And, you know, Troy was very upset because he thought Jimmy Johnson was a little too laid back. He didn't think that the Cowboys took yesterday's game at Texas Stadium seriously enough. Now, after the game, Switzer was kind of grinning there at, hey, it was very hot. We had the flu. We played our guts out. Troy Aikman followed Barry Switzer up to the interview platform, and he was very steamed, just like Jimmy Johnson used to be in the old days. You know, Troy was very upset because he said drop passes. He said we missed blocks on a lot of blitz situations. General sloppiness, kind of like father, like son. You know, so far, maybe Barry Switzer is getting more than he bargained for in Troy Aikman. Back to you, Mike.
At least they're 0-2, unlike last year when they were 0-2, I should say. They're 2-0 now. Later, our quarterbacks will come back with impressions of yesterday, including the defensive problems around the league for some teams. Also ahead, remember the Fog Bowl? Well, the principals are going to talk about one of the most memorable Eagle-Bear games. Randall was the quarterback that day. He's under center for the Eagles tonight. And next, the playbook and how scrambling scrambles the Eagles.
We've gotten much too young and wild.
Oh, that one go.
Oh, the white lines.
I was on a cowboy ad and still thinks he's Garth Brooks.
Get Garth's favorites. Each full-length CD is just $5.99. Each cassette $3.99 when you buy any extra value meal or large sandwich. Or get these other hot artists. $1 from each CD and cassette benefits Ronald McDonald Children's Charities.
What you want is what you get.
NFL Prime Monday is brought to you by Isuzu, makers of incredible four-wheel drives, and by McDonald's. What you want is what you get at McDonald's today.
Very good rhythm, Joe. Good sign. Yeah. Randall against the Bears. He's dropped his last two, 0-2, with big yards, but 7 interceptions, and they get to him, 8 sacks. Now, in the preseason, Randall Cunningham told everyone who would listen that he's not an injury-prone player. Randall is back, and his 5 rushes last week proved to some extent that he's up to his old scrambling style. But that ad-lib style has its disadvantages as well. Ron Jaworski back with us to open up the playbook. Ron?
Thanks, Mike. You know, the Eagles' offense, with its non-existent running attack, has become really totally dependent upon Randall Cunningham. But unfortunately for the Eagles, Randall has not been able to deliver consistent offense.
Here we'll see Randall executing with precision and timing. Watch the play fake and the 7-step drop into the pocket, where he'll plant his back foot in proper position to deliver the football. Let's go back to the snap and look from the sideline camera. The receiver to watch is Calvin Williams. He will run a deep square out, 18 yards down the right sideline. Randall must plant his back foot at 2.3 seconds, then deliver to Williams as he comes out of his break. Watch this develop. You'll see Williams do an outstanding job driving the corner back, getting him to turn his body. Here, Randall delivers. This is the precise timing needed to sustain consistent offense. But Cunningham remains inconsistent. Here's a perfect example. Again, you'll see the play action. This play is designed to get the ball to either Calvin Williams cutting to the sideline or James Joseph coming out of the backfield. This is an either-or read. This linebacker tells you where to go with the football. If he reacts to Joseph, the ball goes to Williams. If he runs with Williams, as you see him do here, you hit Joseph in the flat. Joseph is there. That's where the ball has to go. This is first down. Make the simple read, take what the defense gives you, and keep the chains moving. But Randall holds the ball. He does not execute what the play called for. This sack is on him. These are not isolated cases. Look at this play. An important situation. The Eagles had just recovered a fumble, and a touchdown puts them right in the game. Again, this should be a simple read. Randall knows he has Williams on the post into the end zone. So he has one defender he needs to account for. This safety. Do you throw under him or over him? The safety plays the tight end on the short cross over the middle. So Randall has Williams streaking into the end zone. This read is easy. This should be a touchdown. But Randall never delivers the football. The result will be another sack, again caused by Randall's indecisiveness in the pocket. As we saw in that first play, Randall Cunningham has the ability to read a coverage and deliver the ball with perfect timing. But all too often, Randall tries to make the big play, in the pocket or scrambling out of the pocket. And spectacular, yes. Consistent, no. Now, the Bears are vulnerable to the run. Tonight, the Eagles are going to have to run the football to take some pressure off of Randall, Phil.
Well, back when Randall freelanced, that was great for the teams back in the mid-'80s to the late '80s with Buddy Ryan because they had the best defense in football that time. Randall on offense, all they wanted him to do was make some big plays and not turn the ball over. Well, the defense is not as good now, and they're asking Randall to run a different offense, be more methodical, run a nice, stable offense that marches the ball down the field. And, Joe, this is just not an offense suited for Randall.
Both of you guys make really good points. Ronnie brings out the point of indecision by Randall in the pocket. I think that's one of his biggest problems. Phil, you bring up the point that they have to get a running game. He's in a methodical state. I really think that Randall Cunningham's biggest problem is he in his own mind does not understand what his defined role is to this football team. I think that Randall Cunningham has to stop worrying about what people think about Randall Cunningham and go back and be the aggressive 100-yard rusher every week, no matter what. Then we're going to see the true value of a mature, talented quarterback. But until that happens, he's going to wander around basically in a quagmire.
You almost feel bad for Randall. A lot of pressure on him, not only for himself, but the entire Eagle offense.
Just go do it.
He plays at home where, the fans are not always all that pleasant in Philadelphia against the Bears tonight. Our Knights of the Round Table have assembled across the way. They have other quarterbacks on their mind. We'll speak with Atlanta's Andre Rison also in a couple of minutes. He's been off to a great start the first few weeks. Next, some news around the league. Speaking of quarterbacks, ex-Eagle quarterbacks, is there more controversy following Jimmy Mack to the desert? We're back on Prime Monday after this.
9 to 4, ESPN Sunday Night NFL Game. You'll join Chris Berman at ESPN's NFL Game Day Studios.
You are a legend.
Thanks, Chris. You get $10,000 in a commercial on ESPN. And best of all, you get to bring 3 friends everywhere you go, including the Super Bowl. Yeah! ESPN's Football Legends Sweepstakes. Stay tuned for details. Sponsored by Saban, no wrinkle cotton clothing.
We're back on Prime Monday. Time now for the news, notes, and quotes. What's going on around the league? And we start like most of these segments did last year. Quarterback news. A change in Washington's plan after a good effort yesterday in Louisiana by John Freeze. Against the New Orleans Saints, Freese threw 4 touchdowns, and it was a very successful game for Washington. Well, John Freese has earned at least a few more starts off of that. That means more clipboard time for the 3rd overall pick in the draft, Heath Shuler. The plan was for Freese not to play the entire game like he did week 1 against Seattle. Well, Freese did because he played so well. And now the plan calls for Heath Shuler to be on the bench and watch a little more until there's a window of opportunity for him to come in and earn the starting role. In Houston, you can look for Cody Carlson to start Sunday against Buffalo after missing yesterday's game against Dallas with a 2nd-degree separation of his non-throwing shoulder. And even though Steve Berline was pulled for ineffectiveness in the 3rd quarter last night, after the game, Buddy Ryan said Berline, in all likelihood, will start Sunday in Cleveland. But keep in mind, Arizona has a bye week after next week's game with the Browns. That could more easily facilitate a quarterback change with Jim McMahon lurking in the wings. The NFL is sending a very clear message about chop blocking this year. Some very heavy fines. Obviously, John Gehrig didn't get that message after being fined $7,500 for a Week 1 chop block on Reggie White. Yesterday, the Viking guard chop blocked Tracy Scroggins of the Lions in the 4th quarter. His coach chastised the penalties because they're hurting the team. Gehrig joked he may need a food drive. Well, Gehrig can expect one thing, a second fine, maybe equal to or above the $7,500 per game that he got for the last one. Gehrig makes $12,000 per game or thereabouts, so after taxes and the fines, Gehrig isn't bringing home more than $1,000 a year. He may, or a game, I should say. He may need that food drive as the year goes on. The league offices made players very aware of the fines this year. Certain offenses are specifically noted in players' playbooks. The fines are up for fighting. It's $4,000 for a first fight, $8,000 for a second. Some bills for $4 grand could be heading to the Raiders and Seahawks. 4 players ejected in yesterday's game, 3 of them Raiders. Those 4 players ejected is 31 less than the 35 fans ejected from the Coliseum for fighting during yesterday's Seattle-LA game. Those may be bills heading to players. 1,300 NFL players who struck for 3.5 weeks in 1987 will be getting checks in the mail soon. The National Labor Relations Board today awarded $30 million to the players as part of the 87 strike settlement. That's the largest such award in NLRB history. With Napoleon McCallum's serious injury last Monday, you can look for the Raiders to sign Jared Bunch, who the Giants cut before opening day. LA's anemic rushing game totaled 99 yards yesterday, but 47 of those came in the 4th quarter, with the outcome of the game decided. The Raiders did consider LA resident Christian Okoye, who they worked out this preseason, but they decided not to sign him. And Tony Casillas, remember last week we told you he's trying to make up his mind between the Eagles, Redskins, and Jets? That's still the short list for the defensive lineman. Nothing new this week. Well, Kansas City played very well yesterday as the Chiefs end up beating Steve Young, I should say, with a good effort by Joe Montana. Talk about quarterbacks, our Knights of the Round Table. Skip Bayless back, Mike Wilbon, and Mitch Albert. Mitch.
Thanks a lot, Mike. You know, Kansas City and San Francisco really doesn't mean a whole heck of a lot in terms of conference rivalries or division rivalries, but it meant a lot in terms of personal rivalries. Just when Steve Young thought it was safe to go back into the season, there's his old nightmare, Joe Montana.
Well, Mitch, it's been a nightmare since '92 when Joe started his latest comeback. The most ridiculous talk show phone call I've ever heard came in '92 when a woman calls in and says she wants Steve Young to break his leg in the first series of the game so that Joe can go the whole game.
Ooh, that's terrible. Speaking of haunted, I think that Young's teammates have come to be haunted by him because they're just convinced now he's going to make the big mistake in the big game. Witness yesterday's game. Last 26 minutes of that game, San Francisco turns the ball over 4 times. Steve Young responsible, unfortunately for him, for 3 of those turnovers.
I'm not so sure how great he handled the post game either. Take a look now at his face, particularly when Steve Young was asked about Joe Montana after yesterday's game.
I felt like I was the apprentice that learned. He was the master, and we've both kind of gone on and played some great football. But in the end, there are some comparisons, and I've got to fight on with that, too, because that's a heck of a thing, you know. He's, in many ways, one of the greatest as far as winning Super Bowls 4, you know. I got to get there yet. You know, it's tough to constantly have that going on, but that's kind of par for the course.
I don't know about that. Man. I haven't seen that phony a smile since Wink Martindale hosted Tic-Tac-Doe.
Right, okay? Smiling through the pain right there.
That's a guy who was haunted by a ghost, and it reminds me of like Chamberlain and Bill Russell. It was always going to be that way until Chamberlain won a championship. The same thing with Steve Young. Until he wins his own Super Bowl, he's going to be haunted by Joe Montana.
Yeah, I don't think he's ever going to win one, Mitch. And you know what? I don't blame Steve Young. I blame his owner in San Francisco, Eddie DeBartolo Jr., who did great things, made great decisions through the 1980s. Then all of a sudden, he made the worst one that changed the balance of power in the entire National Football League in the 90s. He let Joe Montana go. And you know what? if Joe Montana were still in San Francisco, I don't think the Dallas Cowboys would have won the last 2 Super Bowls given Montana's mystique.
That might be a stretch. I think he's the least adored great player in the entire NFL, sort of a Roger Maris of the NFL right now.
Well, he may be walking like a baseball player pretty soon because they don't have an offensive line. They lost Sapolo, Barton's out as well. They have, what, $21,000? You can't even buy an offensive lineman's leg for $21,000. Who are they going to get the block
Who can in the National Football League? And I think we need to make a strong point. This is a war of attrition, and slowly but surely, under the salary cap, so many players are going to be lost who cannot be replaced under the cap that I think the quality of play in the National Football League is going to suffer immensely by midseason.
There's always a war of attrition, Skip. We're still going to go back ultimately to quarterbacks, and I want to ask you guys one question. If you had to pick a quarterback tonight, stick with him for the rest of the season, just this season, who would it be?
I'll take a two-headed quarterback in Kansas City. I'll take Joe Montana, and I'll take Paul Hackett, their offensive coordinator, tell me that Steve Bono is going to spot start for Montana just to keep him healthy and happy and physically fit through the year 4 or 5 times. I'll take both those two guys.
Is this the man from Dallas that's saying this? I feel like I'm the Chicago Bulls just watched Portland take Sam Bowie and left me Michael Jordan. I'll take Troy Aikman off your team. Thank you very much.
By the way, has not been healthy.
He's younger. He'll be healthy, and he has won the last couple of Super Bowls.
I'm going to take a guy who compares much more favorably with Michael Jordan, and that's John Elway, who got a team there almost by himself. He's a single quarterback who is likely to make something happen by himself in important playoff games. We've seen it time after time. The drive, do I need to remind anybody?
Well, he's not doing such a great job this year so far. And Montana, I would take Montana in one game. I don't know if I take him for the whole season. It might not last.
The Cowboys are still afraid of the Montana mystique. They're saying in the locker room after the game yesterday, Nate Newton said Montana is still the man.
Well, mystique doesn't win football games. Quarterbacks do. And we'll argue about something else, a few other things that come back later on the show, Mike.
See you guys. I'll take the 2 quarterbacks over here with me. The politically correct answer. Ahead, we'll talk to Atlanta's Andre Rison, leading the NFL in receiving after 2 weeks. Dan Deerdorf will join us from the vet as well. And a little bit later on, downtown Julie Brown. Backstage this week with Bert Grossman from Pitt to San Diego. The defensive lineman now back home as an Eagle.
Army's wishbone offense. We're gonna go, go, go. And we won't stop till we cross that goal line. ESPN college football. It's inspirational.
Michael has the rings. Jerry has the TD record. Sterling carries the Packer offense, but no receiver in the last 5 years has as many catches as Andre Rison. And Andre Rison joins us now from Atlanta after his great 12-catch performance yesterday, leading the league in receiving after 2 weeks. Andre, June Jones, I'm sure wasn't all that happy that you went back, I guess, to the Jerry Glanville Falcon against the Rams.
Well, not really. It made it tougher on me as an individual. I think it got blown out of proportion. But, you know, once my feet were in the water, I wasn't going to run away from the statement that I made.
You lost a couple of receivers this year who I'm sure helped take some of the pressure off you in Mike Pritchard and Mike Haynes. Now you get double covered almost all the time. I wonder, is it easier because you're the main man in the offense, or is it tougher without them because you see more double coverage?
Well, it's not that it's tougher without them because we have some excellent receivers that replace them. Terrence Mathis has stepped up and showed people that he can be a quality receiver in this league. And also the rookie that we have, Bertie Manuel, he's shown that he has a lot of skills also, and also has speed to get deep like Michael Haynes did.
The rookie out of Rice is Bert Emanuel. Now, your relationship with Jeff George has been, on the field, pretty strong thus far. How have you guys been able to hit it off so well right from the start?
Well, basically because I think Jeff has the same attitude I have when he enters the game. He always feels he has something to prove to his peers, and not only his peers, but also the league. And, you know, the guy has so much talent, it's unbelievable. And if we can stay focused and stay behind one another and stay within the system, you know, nobody knows what numbers we're able to put up.
It's been impressive so far, 26 catches. This was a very tough offseason for you. Personal relationships, the fire that devastated your home there in Atlanta. And you said you were going to immerse yourself in football to get away from those off-field problems. I'm curious, is it tough to immerse yourself in your profession, a game, football, when you have those personal problems in your life?
Well, you know, it's tough at first, but I think it makes you a better person once you defeat it. And I think, you know, I had a strong backing as far as, you know, helping me overcome the situation that I had. And right now, Andre Rison is happy, you know, happier than I ever been in my life and also my career. June Jones has come in, and he's the new head coach of the team, and he's given me the opportunity to showcase my skills. And not only that, but off the field, I've tightened things up, and I'm going ahead with my life right now. And right now, everything is looking, up.
Do you get into the danger as an athlete of not dealing with those realities once you get into the middle of the season? Does it become tougher to deal with any problems you may have in your personal life?
Well, hopefully I won't have any more, but being realistic, you're going to run into hurdles in your life. That's what life is about. It's about becoming a better person, as the day goes on. You try to gain more, I guess you would say, respect from others, and you will give more respect to others, as the day goes on and as the year goes on, to be a better person. And once you become that better person, I think your problems will be solved.
There's no better receiver in the league. A shootout with Joe Montana and the Chiefs on Sunday. Andre, good luck.
Thank you.
There'll be a lot of offense in that game. You've seen Andre from before the NFL days, and he caught your eye early, didn't he?
He really did, Mike. I think the one thing you have to understand about Andre Rison, his greatness today is not a surprise to me, nor should it be to anybody at Michigan State where they watched him as a collegian. I went down to the college game between Michigan State and Georgia, his last game. On Friday afternoon, before the game on Saturday, he was out on the field diving for passes. This is a kid that just loves to play football. He has a wealth of God-given talent, understands the professional game, and he's as great a receiver in the game today as anybody, and that includes Jerry Rice.
Yeah, you look at Andre Rison right now, and you see a happy man. And there's a lot of reasons he should be happy. First, this offseason, they hired June Jones. And what's June Jones do? He puts in the run and shoot, or keeps it, and he makes Andre Rison his central figure in that offense. And also, the big thing that he did, he brought in a quarterback in Jeff George, and we've watched Jeff George the first 2 weeks of the season, and I'm telling you, this guy is a human highlight film throwing the football. There hasn't been a guy come in the league throw the ball like this since Bert Jones. So Andre Rison should be happy, who, by the way, is on pace right now to break another good receiver's record and catches, Jerry Rice.
For a single season. Jeff was given credit by Andre yesterday for hitting the bullets. Even though the double coverage is there, Jeff George gets it to Andre Rice. We will get the impressions of Dan Deerdorf coming up. His thoughts on tonight's Bears-Eagles game when we come back. Also, we'll take you on the field, hear what it's like to be next to a Bears lineman.
Let's go! Just a little charged off. I see a leak. That's okay, baby. You got it.
The new Porsche 911 Carrera was crash tested in this secluded building. To Gerhard Royce, who tunes the radical new suspension. To Ivanka Madsen, who stitches a cabriolet top that takes 14 hours to make. And to Stefan Rebrovich, who builds the more powerful engine by hand. This building was the perfect place for these crash tests. Why? Because it meant they didn't have to watch.
This is not your ordinary motor oil. It's Mobil 1 synthetic oil. Why do you need it? Well, if something goes wrong with your car, engine temperatures can soar. Mobil 1 can handle the heat, even above 470 degrees. Furthermore, after 200,000 miles, test engines revealed virtually no scoring, no damage to vital parts. Why take chances? The extra protection you need is available in a container of motor oil. Mobil 1.
You're not going to go home and leave this half finished, are you?
I got 6 days, Dad. We'll make it.
At Glidden, we know how hard it can be to find time to paint. That's why Spread House Paint is formulated to cover the first time, so you can finish in less time.
I guess you'll be going back early then.
I thought I might stick around for a few days.
All right.
Glidden, a better way to paint.
But don't expect me to cook for you.
Chris Berman on cross-dressing.
Hey, however Irv Cross wants to dress is just fine with me.
From the Goodyear blimp, look at the bell on top of the vet for the home opener for the Eagles. Cheesesteak, mustard on the pretzel. Everyone Center City congregating at the vet before the Eagles and the Bears. The Eagles and Bears have only met once on Monday Night Football. In 1989, that year, Randall Cunningham had 62 passing attempts. There then, there tonight, Dan Deerdorf of ABC, who joins us. Dan, your thoughts as you talk with and look at what Randall has done in coming back for the second time. Where do you think his psyche is right now?
I think Randall is still a little unsure of how far he wants to stretch the envelope.
he's admitted that when he comes out of the pocket, when he's on the move, that he's thinking more than he ever has in the past. Instead of being instinctive, he's actually thinking to himself, what's the best move for me to make to keep from hurting myself? He also said, I know I can't play the rest of the season like that, and what better time than Monday Night Football than to break out of it? Tonight might be the night.
That's Randall. He's got a guy in back of him, Herschel Walker, who would like to see the ball a little bit more. Do you think Herschel is still the kind of player who can be your #1 running back?
I don't know that Herschel has the explosiveness in the first 5 yards to be the every down guy that's going to carry you for a whole season. I think Herschel, you listen to every coach that's ever coached a guy, they love having him on a team. They know that he's the guy that's capable of big plays. You know, he had a 93-yarder last week. That's indicative of what he can do. They're really counting on young Mr. Garner, their second-round draft choice this year, who's got a bad rib. They think that he can be their go-to guy, but he's still a couple weeks away from being able to play.
Charlie Garner had a tendency to look good in the preseason. What about the Bears offense? Eric Kramer, you know, he's the 4th among the active quarterbacks in winning percentage as a starter. He does win when he starts, 12-6, I believe it is. Do you think Eric Kramer's a good fit for what Chicago wants to do on offense?
Yeah, I think so, because you know, he's the pick of the litter as far as Dave Wannstedt was concerned. He's the guy that he went out, looked at everybody, and really said had no doubt that Eric Kramer was the guy I wanted. Dave Wannstedt is a former defensive coordinator. He wants a quarterback, first and foremost, that won't make mistakes, won't put his defense in bad field position. And that, I think, Eric Kramer really fits the bill. He may not be Dan Marino, but he is a very efficient quarterback.
We'll see you, Alan Frank, at 9 Eastern. Thanks, Dan.
You got it, Mike.
Okay, Dan, one other point about the Chicago offense. They have 8 new starters from opening day last year, including both of their wide receivers. One of last year's starters on opening day at wideout was Wendell Davis. He was injured, if you remember, last year when the Eagles and Bears played in Philly. Davis ruptured both patella tendons in his knees just going up for a pass on the much-criticized turf at the vet. I spoke with Davis over the weekend. He goes through rehab 3 times a week. He's almost back to normal everyday activities, like walking upstairs. He hasn't run yet, has a small desire to play again, but his first priority is getting his life back to normal before considering a second shot at playing. He hasn't been back to a Bears game yet, but he told me he may go to Sunday's home game against Minnesota. Let's turn to Ron Jaworski, who played on that field at the vet for a decade. Ron, are they going to do something about that field?
Yeah, Mike, first of all, I played over 100 games on that field, and it was never a great playing surface, but it's really gotten bad. So bad, in fact, after the Eagles' first preseason game against the Jets, new owner Jeffrey Lurie, who spent $185 million for that team, went ballistic when he seen some of the seams that were maybe, an inch, 2 inches out on the field. He just was not happy. He called a special meeting with the mayor. They did clean the field up. They did a temporary job of repairing those seams, and the mayor did do a great job of getting it better, but it won't be a great playing field until they get a new field, and that'll be next year.
Much criticized, but they have to go through the 8 games there this year. Ron, hang tight with us. We're going to come back in a little bit, have Ron reopen the playbook, and then he'll be talking about the Chicago defense, and it may match up well for Chicago fans against the Eagle offense. Next, our quarterbacks reassemble for thoughts on Week 2, including how do you stop the so-called West Coast offense? Derek Thomas carries part of the answer.
Look for the 3M Filtrete Clean Air Filter wherever you buy furnace or air conditioner filters.
Introducing Ultimate Football.
It's not as easy as it looks.
The only personal computer game that lets you play, coach, or own your own NFL team.
Think you can do better? Play the game.
Anything is possible.
All right, QB's Cubed, I should say, are back. I'm having a great night, aren't I? Our trio of throwers.
New devil.
I'd be pulled for the backup. Our trio of throwers back with thoughts on Sunday 2 in the league. And before we get to Ron Jaworski, Ron, we're going to start with the Niners and Chiefs game. Steve Young and the offense, they turned it over 4 times, in part because of the pressure from Derek Thomas. Over the last 3 seasons, when the Niners yield 3 or more sacks, they're just a 500 team. Ron, the importance of that pressure.
Well, Mike, the key to stopping any passing offense is pressuring the quarterback. But when you play the San Francisco 49ers, you need quick pressure, and that's where Derek Thomas comes in. He has the ability to get outside and put quick pressure on the quarterback like you see here. I'm telling you, he just is out quick the tackle and the tight end. Derek Thomas is the kind of guy here, goes right around the tackle. This is the quick pressure you have to have when you're playing one of those low-risk offense like the 49ers have. The big push from the interior lineman is great, but Steve Young get rid of the ball. Derek Thomas makes you move around the pocket and get rid of the ball quicker than you'd like to, Joe.
You talk about somebody with a quick trigger, Ronnie. How about Steve Berline being replaced by Jim McMahon last night out in Arizona? Okay, this is the first play of the game. Yeah, he's under a little pressure. He hangs one out on the sideline. It's intercepted. First mistake he makes. Now, third quarter, McMahon goes in. First snap from under center. He breaks the huddle. Everything looks good so far, except he pulls out too quickly, winds up with a fumble. Buddy Ryan has made the statement, in all likelihood, Steve Berline will be his quarterback. That is, in all likelihood, the beginning of a full-blown quarterback controversy. You got to remember, Jim McMahon doesn't need another quarterback to be embroiled in a controversy. He can do it all by himself, and they're fixing to have another one, Ronnie.
Joe, what a surprise. Buddy Ryan in a controversy. You know, there's one in Arizona. He left Houston. There is now one there. Yesterday's game against the Cowboys, 3rd and inches. What does Houston try to do? Throw a 20-yard sideline pattern. Kevin Gilbride thought it was it was a first down rather than the 3rd and 1. He's concerned, as you see right there. What did we do there? Apparently there was a breakdown with the system to get the play out to Richardson. Consequently, Dallas got the ball back. They get a field goal to make it 13-10 at the half. Jeff Fisher, the defensive coordinator, he wasn't real happy. He had some words with Gilbride, but Gilbride was man enough to stand up and say, hey, I made a mistake. But when you're playing the Dallas Cowboys, the world champion, you can't make those kinds of mistakes, Phil.
Yeah, all right, enough for the bad news, Ron and Joe. Let's go to something good. Let's talk about Tony Dungy and the Minnesota Vikings defense, who've given up only 19 points in the first 2 games. Why? John Randall and Henry Thomas are 2 big reasons why. These two combined last year for 21.5 quarterback sacks. And the great thing about these 2 guys is the Minnesota Vikings can rush just 4 people and put pressure on any quarterback in the league. And that leaves 7 people behind them to run and chase the runners as they go around. This is a good defense, Mike.
They're 1-1. Everybody but the Bears at 1-1 in the Central, including the Tampa Bay Bucs. And quarterbacks, let's talk about a quarterback. Tampa Bay drafted Trent Dilfer, Jaws, but the incumbent's doing a pretty good job.
Well, Craig Harrison has been magnificent for the first 2 games, and I think after draft day, everyone's saying Dilfer's the guy. He's the one that's going to be out there, and Erickson on the bench. Well, I studied Erickson last week against the Bears, and he was terrific. They dropped balls that cost them the game. Yesterday, he was 19 of 24, 313 yards, and 3 touchdowns. This is a guy that has great presence in the pocket, the ability to read coverage. He's the kind of guy that Sam White loves to have in there. He's a hard-working guy, he's a disciplined guy, and he's a guy that could bring you victory. He's a star of the future, Phil.
That's okay. We look a lot alike, Ron. No problem. I got it. You know, you talk about Florida quarterbacks. How about that Dan Marino? Boy, isn't he struggling. He only has 7 touchdown passes, 1 interception, 650 yards of offense. Now, Phil, you and I talked about this over the last couple weeks. Dan Marino, Achilles tendon on his right foot. You said you had a right foot problem, wound up with a sore arm. I had a right foot problem, wound up with a sore arm. I think the only conclusion that we can make is that you and I weren't very good and Dan's great.
You know, I can finally agree with Joe on something. You're right.
That should be a good battle. Marino and the 2-0 Dolphins against the 2-0 Jets. They always have high-scoring affairs. All right, quarterbacks cubed. We have one with a pair of running backs from last night in New Orleans. After the Saints lost, about after midnight, at Ricky Jackson's Club 57 in New Orleans, 2 of the running backs on the Saints, the guys who both get playing time, Lorenzo Neal, a starter, and Mario Bates, a backup who carries the ball a lot. Well, those 2 got in a skirmish. The result, Mario Bates out for at least a month with a broken jaw from Lorenzo Neal in that skirmish. Apparently, according to Coach Jim Mora, no disciplinary action. The 2 have made up, but Mario Bates out a month with a broken jaw after a skirmish with a teammate at Ricky Jackson's club last night. When we come back to Philly, Pam Oliver talks with one of the men responsible for rebuilding the defense in Philadelphia. Next, on the field, we hear some of the chatter from the intense Chris Zorich.
Hell yeah! Hell yeah! Hell yeah!
Why do smart shoppers shop Century Tile?
There's so much to choose from, right? Yeah.
Choose ceramic tile, vinyl, hardwood flooring, carpeting, and more.
Century makes it so easy.
Century has a huge selection, in stock and priced right.
Including the unsurpassed quality and durability of Monsanto wear-dated carpet by Aladdin with the traffic control fiber system certified and warranted by Monsanto.
Shop Century Tile and Carpet, close to home with 9 locations. Dial Century for the store nearest you.
Train as you play.
Hey, you got Bo's rule?
then get off the couch and go get yourself an RTV.
Call the number on your screen now for more information.
I'm waiting.
Hope it still works.
What are you supposed to do?
They need to have an extensive knowledge on offensive and defensive football strategies.
Do they move?
They move.
Show them to.
Thrilling.
Want some real excitement? Order ABC college football games on pay-per-view in addition to the game on your local ABC station. Check Friday's sports section of USA Today for games available in your area, or call your local cable company today.
Thought we were going to watch real football.
Richie Kotite, head coach of the Philadelphia Eagles. Always on the hot seat when you're the coach in Philadelphia, and the Eagles haven't made the playoffs in the prior year, opening up the home season tonight against the Bears. During our shows again this season, we, along with NFL Films, will take you on the field in our soundtrack segments. It's a wireless microphone helping transmit some of what is seen but not heard by us fans on NFL Sundays. Tonight, Bear defensive tackle Chris Zorich, a caring man off-field who brings 15 disadvantaged youths to each Bears home game. But Zorich is an emotional leader on the field.
Come out to play, baby. That's it. Have some fun. Let's go. Just more charge, dog. I see you, baby. Oh, the first unit. Oh. That was ugly. Nice.
You're going to make a mistake, make it full speed.
Oh, okay. I see a link. That's okay, baby. You got it. You're making a mistake. You're making a mistake. Make it full speed. Yeah. How you doing?
Keep working. Keep the middle pass rush. That was good. That was good. I mean, keep working in the middle, okay? Don't let that storm out, because he's going to try to get out of there, okay?
Oh, he moved. Thank you.
You know, we knocked the out of the play we want to knock the out of, you know, the direction call.
I didn't do it. Huh? I didn't do it. Yeah. But I didn't do it.
What did you do?
I'm not going to say that, but I mean, I didn't make that play. Hell yeah, baby! I see you, baby! I see you, Joe! Hey, Crockett. Miami Merrill. You look like you belong in Miami Vice, man.
We need to make a play up front. We need to get off the block and make something happen.
Hell yeah! Hell yeah! Hell yeah!
Yes, I got it. Yep.
Back! Damn, baby, you're supposed to fall down. You're supposed to fall down, baby. See that? Oh, stay in the house!
Zorich out of Notre Dame has emerged to be a starter and a very solid performer, coming off a career-high 7 sacks last year and a good 9 tackle performance in Week 1 against the Bucs. Our roundtable gang back across the way. They're back for a second seating in a few minutes to talk, among other things, about Buddy Ryan. Bears taking the field at the Vet, getting ready for their second game opportunity. Yes, it is early, but to take the lead in the NFC Central and go 2-0 tonight against the Eagles.
Me? A legend?
Enter ESPN's Football Legend Sweepstakes. If you win, you're on the sidelines of 4 ESPN Sunday night NFL games. You'll join Chris Berman at ESPN's NFL Game Day Studios.
You were a legend.
Thanks,
Chris.
You get $10,000 in a commercial on ESPN. And best of all, you get to bring 3 friends everywhere you go, including the Super Bowl. ESPN's Football Legends Sweepstakes. Stay tuned for details. Sponsored by Saban, No Wrinkle Cotton Clothing.
This guy's probably pretty fired up. First regular season opportunity they played in the preseason this year for William Perry to face his old team, the Chicago Bears. As we get closer to that game, of course, the guy who was the defensive coordinator and one of the personalities on the Bears when the Fridge reached stardom was Buddy Ryan. Here to talk Buddy and some other stuff. Our Knights of the Round Table. Mitch?
Thanks, Mike. You know, ESPN actually did a piece comparing Buddy Ryan to a Greek tragedy. Lots of drama and always a bad end. Well, for the first 2 weeks of this season, I think he's living up to the part.
Look, Mitch, Buddy Ryan is probably the best defensive coach the NFL has seen in the last 20 years. But as great an offensive coach in mind as Bill Walsh was, he turned that defense completely over to George Seifert. Same thing with Joe Gibbs and Richie Pettibone. I think as soon as the Cardinals take possession of the ball in any game, Buddy Ryan ought to be bound and gagged and kept away from that offense.
Very good point. You know, off the field, Buddy's just a one-man offensive dynamo. He can hype ticket sales, as he has in Arizona, by saying outrageous things, but the guy can't coach offense. He went in there with that Phoenix offense that wasn't that bad yet last year and tried to revamp it. You know what? I think Meg Ryan knows more offense than Buddy Ryan does.
Well, I mean, look at what he did when he got there, all right? He got Clyde Simmons, he got Seth Joyner, he got Andre Waters, Wilbur Marshall. He used his draft pick for a linebacker. I mean, he made defensive moves. He didn't do a whole lot with that offense, and now that offense is starting to resemble the Philadelphia offense with Randall Cunningham running around the backfield, only Steve Berline's not Randall Cunningham.
Well, that's what they're about to become, the new Philadelphia Eagles. 9-7 and out of the first round of the playoffs, which, considering how sorry the Cardinals have been, will be like ecstasy for Bill Bidwell for a while.
Hey, poor Steve Berline. He's like a shell of himself now. In '91, I watched him take the Cowboys into the playoffs. Now he's playing for Buddy Ryan, who has his boy Jim McMahon ready, primed to go on the sidelines. Steve Berline can't quit looking over his shoulder long enough to throw a completion.
Well, you heard Joe make the reference to Jim McMahon disrupting things, and this is a mistake that Buddy Ryan is repeating. He did it in Philadelphia. He threw off Randall Cunningham's confidence in Philadelphia with Jim McMahon over his shoulder, and now he repeats the same mistake out in Phoenix, and I think Joe's right. There probably is going to be a quarterback.
Buddy Ryan has an offensive instinct in his entire body. He will pick up the phone right now and call this studio and call this man, Phil Simms, and get him out of retirement, out of that suit, and into a jersey right now, because Phil Simms right now is still better than McMahon and Berline together.
One more. If he takes Phil Simms, he's got to take Joe Theismann along with him.
Oh, great. So then what? We take over the show with Tirico, right?
Hey,
good.
How about that?
Hey, buddy. 1-800. Yeah, we'll give you the number. Call right now.
All right. Okay. Mr. NFC Central, I know you love this division. And by the way, speaking of Buddy Ryan, he did once coach for the Bears. We're going to get to see a pretty good Bears team tonight. But I still think this is a sorry division. It's mired, as usual, in highly competitive mediocrity.
Wait a minute. Stop picking on Mitch already.
Yeah, stop picking on Mitch.
This is not a truly great division, but it's the best division in the NFC, Skip. The West has one good team, one great team, the Niners. The East has one good team, the Cowboys. If the Niners don't get healthy, particularly along the offensive line, in a hurry, you're going to see 3 NFC teams in the playoffs.
And let's not forget, okay, 3 of these teams, Minnesota, Detroit, and Chicago, changed quarterbacks, all right? We're in the second week of the season. It does take a little time to get used to some new quarterbacks, all right? You got defensive-minded coaches trying to run quarterbacks.
But where is the offensive firepower in this division? These people have no idea how to spend money. Now, your Lions spent a whole lot of money, $5 million for a very average quarterback in Scott Mitchell.
What is with this Detroit bashing lately? Are you trying to set this thing up for next Monday night?
Yes, I am. It's going to be a wipeout.
The guy played his 9th game of his career as a starter yesterday. How great was Troy Aikman in his 9th game?
A lot better than Scott Mitchell ever hoped to be.
It won't be Detroit we're looking at if some teams don't get away from some injury problems, the Cardinals don't recover. I think we're talking about looking at the Green Bay Packers, who, despite yesterday's loss to Miami, an embarrassing loss at home, can still recover. They have time to get back and be good enough to play the Cowboys in the NFC title game.
Wait a second. You can combine the 49ers and the Green Bay Packers together, and the Cowboys will still beat them in the NFC Championship game.
You are so provincial. I can't stand it. Back to you, Mike.
Needless to say, the Packers must run the ball. They ran the ball 7 times yesterday, second fewest rushing attempts in the history of the National Football League. Chris Berman takes us through the NFL history book later to a time when there were no questions about the Eagles' rushing game, when Philly had one of the best running backs ever. Next, Jaws reopens the playbook, looking at the Bears' defense. Will Trace Armstrong and company cause trouble for the quarterback again this week, as they did last week?
In the tradition of the HBO pictures Stalin and the Band Played On, an HBO original movie event.
based on the true story of one man's desperate fight to save the last safe place on Earth. Raul Julia, Edward James Olmos, and Sonia Braga fight fire with fire in The Burning Season. Coming soon on HBO.
Taking a look at the weather, we've got a high-pressure system.
Sitting right here.
And that is bringing us nothing but clear skies and old Mr. Sunshine.
Is it just us, or are weathermen really only guessing?
But hold on.
It's gonna get better.
Clear as a bell.
Not a cloud in the sky. That's why we make the Isuzu Trooper, because life's an adventure. Be prepared.
My prediction, it's gonna rain. Trust me.
Isuzu, practically amazing.
Walter Payton puts it on pasta. Payne Stewart, blackened salmon. Dan Marino, wings. So what do you put it on?
Yow!
Tabasco.
70 years ago, Ace became the place. To celebrate, we're having a huge sale. Because while some things have changed over the years, one thing hasn't: our great values. The Ace 70th anniversary sale. It's still
Cunningham back starting at the vet. 55, 34-1 is the Eagles starter. You know, Rich Kotite's happy to see him. Rich is 15-6 when Randall starts. Going against, among others, Mark Carrier. Returned to the Pro Bowl last year. Off to a good start. 8 solo tackles against Tampa Bay last week. The Bears' defense last year was the second stingiest in allowing the opposition to score, and the only team out of the top 5 in this category not to make the playoffs. The Giants' defense leading the list. Phil told us in the meeting it was the ball control offense that was the reason for that. Earlier, Ron Jaworski detailed Randall Cunningham's at times inconsistent play and indecisiveness in the pocket. Now, Ron tells us how that matches up with Dave Wanstead's defense.
Mike, the Bears' defense is conservative by design. It's a bend but don't break approach that really makes the offense be very patient.
The Bear defense that Randall Cunningham will face tonight is basic in its approach. They split their ends wide, usually outside the tight end on the strong side, and they position their linebackers tight on the inside. This is part of their base double zone look, but you can take the Bears out of their comfortable double zone with formation variation, as the Bucs show here. Tampa dictates defense by splitting 3 receivers. It forces the Bears' strong safety, Sean Gale, to move up to account for the man in the slot. So the Bears are now out of their double zone. You do it simply with different formations. Now it falls to the quarterback to make the right read, to be patient yet decisive. The immediate read is this linebacker, Joe Kane. He'll jump the back coming out of the backfield. Then Craig Erickson must locate the middle linebacker, Dante Jones. He will tell Erickson where to go with the football. Will Jones respond to the slot man cutting across the middle or drop into the passing lane to take away the wideout? Jones stays in the middle, so Erickson will have the wide receiver on the hook route. Against the Bears' disciplined defense, you must go through your reading progression. Remain poised and patient in the pocket, and then deliver to the right receiver at the right time. Here you'll see the Bears make a different adjustment. They walk out the linebacker so that the 2 safeties, Gale and Mark Carrier, can remain in the 2 deep position. This play will really show that patience in the pocket is the key against the Bears. You keep your technique and your balance until a receiver finds an opening, and receivers will be open. The quarterback must locate them. Erickson knows his outside receiver will push the free safety Carrier back with a strong move to the inside. Carrier will react. His responsibility is to make sure that no one gets behind him. Now focus on Erickson. He shows the pocket awareness that is absolutely essential if you want to sustain a consistent passing game against the Dave Wanstead coached defense. That will be the challenge for Randall tonight, or the Eagles' offense will struggle.
When you watch this Bear defense in action, you get the impression that Dave Wanstead doesn't believe there's a quarterback in the league that can engineer a 12-play, 80-yard drive. And you know what? He may be right. In 17 games under Wanstead, no team has scored more than 3 touchdowns in a single game. Tonight, Randall wears the hat. He must take what the defense gives him and be happy with a 5-yard gain, Phil. Well, Jaws, I think you're right. I tell you, I had a chance to face this Bears defense last year, and one of the weak spots is outside. If you choose to throw the ball to the outside, they'll let you do that. But most teams don't have the courage to throw it out there. But let's look at the whole Bear team. Look back a few years ago. This Bear team reminds you of Jimmy Johnson when he first took over the Dallas Cowboys. Dave Wannstedt was running that defense in. He's running the same defense now with the Chicago Bears. They rotate defensive linemen just like the Dallas Cowboys do. They run the same offense. In fact, they went out and hired Norv Turner's brother, Ron, to run that offense. I tell you, Joe, in a couple more years, I think they can compete against the Dallas Cowboys.
I don't disagree. I think there's a real good opportunity there. Statistics sometimes lie to coaches, although sometimes they don't. I think some statistics you have to keep in mind regarding the Bear defense. They had 24 takeaways in 8 wins last year under Dave Wannstedt. They had 6 takeaways in 9 losses. If the Bears are going to win, they may play a bend-don't-break defense, but they still have to get the opponent to give up the football, Michael.
Good secondary. They're good almost in each category. Line, linebackers, and secondary.
It's a good term. They're good. They're not great anywhere yet, but they're good in a lot of places.
Good point. We'll keep an eye on them tonight. We've talked a lot about the Eagle offense against the Bear defense. We'll turn it around in a little bit. Also going back to the ballpark, hearing from one of the key members of the new-look Eagle defense. Defense is facing Eric Kramer tonight. Why did Wannstedt want Eric Kramer? He's the last quarterback to beat the Cowboys in the playoffs, 38-6 in 1991. Oh, you Herschel Walker, you. He ranks 19th on the NFL's all-time rushing list, 7,484 yards. This is his 9th NFL season. On the other side of the ball, much was made of the departures of Clyde Simmons and Seth Joyner from the Eagle defense. But Philadelphia acquired 4 familiar names to fortify their defense. You'll meet Bert Grossman backstage in a little bit. Ex-49er Bill Romanowski now starts at left linebacker. Greg Townsend was signed from the Raiders. And William Fuller. William Fuller is standing by with Pam Oliver.
And thank you, Mike. The Eagles have always been known for their formidable defenses, and they've lost a lot of guys, but they've also gained a lot of guys. One of those new players on board is joining us now, defensive end William Fuller. William, thanks for being with us tonight. Tell us about coming to a team where the defense is always known as really the unit.
Well, that's great. We played great defense when I was in Houston, so I'm used to that, and this is a great opportunity for me. I come to a city where, like you said, they are known for great defense. They have some great defensive players, and it's a pleasure for me to be on the same team with Byron Evans and Eric and those type of players who are big play people. And, of course, Bud Carson is a great defensive mind in his own right, and so as far as making the transition from Buddy to Bud, it really wasn't a big transition at all.
What about the comparisons between those defenses and the defense we're talking about now?
Well, they're both attacking style of defenses. Now, Buddy takes more risk than Bud would take, but yet they both can be very, very effective. They're both complicated types of schemes where it really takes a little time to adjust to them, to learn them. But once you get them down pat, they can be very effective. They can cause offensive problems.
One of your jobs is to get to the quarterback. I mean, how difficult would that be to get to Kramer tonight? What's the plan for you guys?
Well, the plan is just to get off on the ball, to keep constant pressure on him. Now, he's going to throw those quick passes, which they've been working on, which we saw earlier when we played them in preseason. And we're not going to be able to get there every time, but we want to get there. We want to have people falling around his knees, making him aware of us. We want to hopefully bat some balls down and hopefully get some sacks. But I really think that's the key to the ball game, how well we can put pressure on Kramer.
Speaking of sacks, you've averaged 10 sacks over the last 4 seasons. You've got to do that once again, I guess, or the pressure's on you. Okay, that's the story from here. Now let's go back to Mike.
Pam, thank you. Of course, Fuller changing uniforms and conferences. Staying in the same division was Eric Kramer, going from the Lions to the Bears. Joe, your thoughts on Kramer as a quarterback?
I think that helps him, first of all, Mike, staying in the same division. It gives him a chance to study the same teams over again. He knows how he did against them, which is always a difficult chore for a quarterback, to put yourself in the situation against the team. Eric Kramer was 3-1 as a part of the Lions last year. He was in a messy situation. There was embroiled quarterback controversy there. He's a stable quarterback in Detroit. In his 3-1 start last year, he was 8-2, 8 touchdown passes, 2 interceptions. That's why Dave Wannstedt wanted him. He wanted a quarterback who didn't make mistakes, who didn't put the ball up for grabs, but could allow his defense to do whatever they had to do and allow the offense to score when they had the opportunity.
Yeah, you're right. And I tell you, and also an important pickup for the Chicago Bears in this offseason was Lewis Tillman at running back. Why? Because the Bears love to run an offense. The running attack is all straight ahead. No misdirection, no counter plays, and Lewis Tillman is a runner who hits the hole straight ahead, never hesitates. And with him and Tim Worley, I tell you, they have a good pair of runners for this offense.
Tillman, 19 carries, 62 yards last week. Boy, wouldn't the Giants love to have him back? Rodney Hampton out for a couple of weeks. A little bit later, we take you back to one of the more memorable playoff games in recent times, the Fog Bowl between the Eagles and the Bears. Next, Bert Grossman talking about Randall, the new Eagle owner, college days at Pitt, and experimenter.
Bert?
Yes?
You ever take steroids?
Yeah, I tried them.
We were moving. Margaret called and said if we put both our new house and car policies with her.
Illustrations. Buddy left town, not by his own choosing, but had some familiar faces. Seth, Clyde, and company leaving with him out of Philly. Not all sunshine yet in Arizona. Time will tell. I guess you can say Bert Grossman is an in-law of ours. The Eagles defensive lineman is married to the priest of the ESPN body shaping show.